Hi, how y'all doing? It's Thursday, April 24th, right about noon as of recording this video. My natural state of bedhead has returned. Gonna go ahead and trim the Wolfman beard this weekend, though. I think it's getting right about to the point where it dips into my coffee as I take a sip, and that's when I know it's too long. I've been sitting out here past couple hours working on Joey's bicycle. He doesn't know how to ride yet. And I've had this bike for a couple of years now. I found it on Marketplace up in Jacksonville a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, back in late 2022, early 23. So it's an older bike. It's actually a Huffy, which was still kind of a mainline popular brand of bicycle when I was a kid. They were long ago, at least around here, relegated to like Kmart's and whatnot. I think Target might have carried them for a while. Been a long time since I've seen one in Walmart. I still go look at the bicycles in Walmart every now and again, even though they're all mostly cheap Chinese junk, just knockoffs of the stuff that's out there on the market today, the good stuff. Riding bicycles was always something that I absolutely loved to do. It was always a passion of mine. From a young kid, I was deeply in love with BMX bikes and mountain bikes. I love to be able to do stuff on my bike. I love to be able to, travel, but also, jump and do tricks, find features out and about that were challenging and fun. So with me, it was always BMX bikes and mountain bikes. Had a couple of like old-fashioned racing bikes. I had this one that was a Raleigh. It's kind of an odd frame design. It was very tall, and it was an old-fashioned racing bike. So it had the 27-inch rims with the super narrow street tires. They're about as big around as your finger. The kind of stuff they ride in professional bicycle championships in Europe and whatnot. And I would still I had set this bike up, like I said, it was a racing style bike, but it was an unusual frame and it was very tall. And I was never comfortable laying down on a bike like you do with those. So I added I took the little straight bars it had on it off of it and put on a small set of angel wing style bars, and put on new bike cables. I used to be able to do all that. Used to work on my bikes, fix them up and whatnot. In fact, me and my childhood best friend, and then my best friend now, Scotty, all three of us had once entertained the idea of eventually going into business building custom bicycles. Never happened, but it's one of those things. But I had customized this bike, and I used to ride this bike all over. I was always terrified to jump it, even off of a curb, because the rims were so narrow. But I would ride this bike all over town. I would shoot it down hills, do all kind of crazy stuff. And even though I sat up on it, this bike was still wicked fast. But we got bicycles came up in that meeting with Joey's therapist yesterday, talking about his his dexterity and things his physical abilities. And my ex brought up the fact that she had a bicycle for him, but that she still had the training wheels on it, or she had the training wheels on it, and he would ride it with the training wheels. But the last time they went out to ride it, he went to go around a curve and bent one of the training wheels, because he far outweighs what training wheels are meant for. Training wheels are meant for toddlers. And my son is 7 years old. He's over 5 feet tall and like 120 pounds. My son is not a training wheel sized kid. And my ex-wife would be content to just let him use training wheels for the rest of his life. And I told her, again, this was something that pissed her off. I told her, you can't. No, he doesn't need training wheels. He's too big. He's too old. He needs to learn to ride without training wheels. He needs to just do it. And he's never going to just do it if you don't push him. You force him to do anything he doesn't want to do, but you have to give him that push. Because he's so afraid of getting hurt, he's afraid to fall, that he doesn't want to try to do it without training wheels. I've been talking to him about this, and he's been getting more and more used to the idea that, yeah, I need to just go ahead and do it. And that's what I tell him. I told him, I says, like we're talking about skateboarding. I used to be a skater when I was younger, and I loved it. And I've got a couple of my old boards here still. It's probably something I'll never be able to do again with my stump. Damn sure not like I used to. Because you need feet to control the board. And I only have foot and stump. But I was talking to him about it, and he said he never wanted to try it because he was too scared. And I told him, I said, son, I said, I know you're scared. I said, but if you refuse to do everything that scares you just because you're scared. I said, you're never going to do anything. And I said, you can't be afraid of life, Joey. I said, you cannot live in fear of everything. I said, and that includes getting hurt. I said, falling down and getting hurt is part of life. I said, it's going to happen whether or not you want it to or not. I said, you cannot be afraid of life. I said, I'm never going to force you to do something you really don't want to do. I said, but you have got to learn to choose to take risks. I said, for example, your favorite superhero is Superman, right? Yeah, that's his favorite Superman. I said, one of the greatest things about Superman is he can fly, right? Yep. I said, well, I'm telling you right now, I said, skateboarding is the closest feeling I've ever come to flying. I said, sometimes when you're going really fast, I said, the wind, blowing at you, I said, you feel kind of like you're floating. I said, it's the closest feeling I've ever come to flying. Never gone skydiving, then you're falling. I said, but it feels kind of like flying sometimes. I said, and it's such a wonderful feeling. I said, I'm not going to force you to do it. I said, but I think you should try it. I said, and when you fall down, don't let that stop you from getting back up and trying again. I said, when you fall, use that as energy, use that as fuel to get back up and try it again and not to fall. And it's the same thing with bicycles. So we've been talking about bicycles here lately. I've got my bike, and I got one of those half bike trailers that I had connected to my bicycle. And it's a bicycle without a front wheel, front forks. And we used to ride that around the neighborhood, and he loved it. He absolutely loved it. He was always asking, Daddy, can we go ride? And I would tell him, yep, we can go ride, but we got to work on getting you to where you can ride by yourself. So instead of me pulling you on a trailer, we can ride together. He's getting more and more into the idea of it. And I told my ex-wife, you need to stop with this training wheel bullshit. Stop doing him the way your family did you. Her grandmother, and probably her mother too, would not allow her to learn to ride a bicycle because they were so afraid of the girls getting hurt. The most they were ever allowed to do was ride roller skates, and they could only do that with a handrail. They were not allowed to do it, out on the sidewalk in the road or in a rink or anything. They could only do it with a handrail and weren't allowed to go any faster than walking speed. My ex-wife didn't know how to ride a bicycle until me. I taught her how to ride a bicycle. A grown woman. Nothing wrong with that. The bad thing is it was always something that I loved, and I thought it could be something that we could enjoy together. I've said before that my ex-wife and I did not have a lot in common. We both loved animals, and we both loved to hike and explore. And a lot of our commonality stopped there. So I thought, this was something else that we could have in common, that we could do. It's fun, it's good for fitness. And, she used to be into fitness and keeping fit and whatnot. I was. And I taught her how to ride a bicycle. And she did great. And we would go, trail riding together. Not like, mountain bike trails, of which there are some here in Florida that I was addicted to, but just flat trails. And on towards the end of our marriage, that was one of those things that she threw in my face. She hated it. She absolutely hated riding bicycles, and she tried to make it like I was forcing her to do it when I never did that. I encouraged her to do it. Never forced her. I never forced her to do a damn thing in her life. For the time we knew each other. She said she hated it, hated every time we went to go do it. She hated it when I would, try to encourage her to do something as simple as just stand up while coasting. Because I would encourage her to, try to advance her skill. You'd think I was asking her to unbuckle her harness while doing a loop-de-loop on a roller coaster. And that really hurt me. It really hurt, because if it was so bad, why couldn't you have just been honest with me and said, no, Joe, I'm not comfortable. I don't want to do this. I would have been disappointed, but I wouldn't have pushed. I wouldn't have encouraged her. Instead, she learned to ride. She said she enjoyed it, said she had fun with it, only to throw it back in my face years later. I hated it. God, I hated it. And you made me do it, And, since riding bicycles was always such a joy and passion of mine, I have always been excited to teach Joey how to ride a bicycle. And my ex-wife would not get back on a bicycle. I don't think even if Joey begged her would she get back on a bicycle. But she's got this very compliant boyfriend, this pushover, milquetoast simp. He, the kind of guy that, he's that kind of guy that she'll snap her fingers and point, and he'll say, yes, ma'am, and he'll just go do it. He's got no dignity and no self-worth, especially in their relationship. And since I said that yesterday, I kind of feel like she's going to go ahead and, start trying to encourage Joey to do it without training wheels, and probably pass it off to her boyfriend to try to teach him to ride a bicycle. And that's my place. That's something for me to do. That's not for her boyfriend to do. And this bike I've got here, I'll probably show it off tomorrow when I've finished cleaning it up and getting it ready. It's kind of it's a aggressive, smaller kids mountain bike. It's 20-inch wheels. I think it's a 9-inch frame. It's a mountain bike, but it's the size of a BMX bike. And it's got extra wide rims with extra wide tires. The tires are like 3 inches wide. Much easier to balance on, right out of the gate. Tires like that didn't exist when I was a kid. You had standard mountain bike tires, 1 3/4, 2 inches wide. And when I started riding bikes with these extra wide tires, I fell in love. It's a whole different feeling, and it's so much easier to balance. So I bought him this bike. It is, I think, a 7-speed, so it's got gears, and the lower the gear you're in, the easier it is to pedal, which would be easier for him because he's not, strong right out of the gate. And after having this meeting this weekend, and knowing that my ex-wife appears to genuinely enjoy stealing moments away from me with my son, I think we're going to make this weekend about Joey learning to ride a bicycle. You know, nothing, not pushing, nothing, you know, crazy, just, you know, getting him to ride out here in the grass in my front yard, and getting him to see that it's not really that scary, and it's a whole lot more fun than it is scary. It's time. It's time he learned how to do it. It's time that, you know, I get out here and try to do it with him. I got my bike over there. It's a big old honking cruiser style bicycle with, again, huge tires and big old angel wing handlebars. It's like a beach cruiser, but cooler, and really fun and comfortable to ride. It's a really comfortable travel bike. I loved riding it around town. Put a lot of miles on it before I got weak. So, it's going to be a learning experience this weekend for both of us. Because after I'm finished, you know, cleaning and tuning his bike up, I'm going to do that with mine. And I'm going to try to ride mine out here in the yard. It'll be the first time I've been on a bike in well over a year. And a lot of the things I used to love doing are probably lost to me now because of my foot. But I can still pedal, you know. So I'm going to get it cleaned up so I can, you know, demonstrate to him, you know, different things to do. If you feel like you're going to fall, just put your feet down. You know, this is how you take off. Stuff like that. And we're going to both learn how to ride bikes together this weekend. I hope, I really hope that he does it. Like I said, I'm not going to force him to do it, but I really hope that he steps out of his comfort zone just a little bit and really gives it a shot. Because I think it could be one of those things that once he actually sees how fun it is, that it could be something that he could grab onto, could help him get stronger, get in better shape. Because he's got to lose a little bit of weight now. And, you know, it could just be one more thing that he and I can bond over, and something that he and I can have that's ours. Because this is that sort of thing that, you know, especially with our situation, doesn't belong to her boyfriend. You know, if she actually had the integrity to teach him herself, I would still be a little bit disappointed that I didn't get to do it, but I would be okay with that because that's his mom. But I'm here and I can do it. It is not for her boyfriend to do. But I know if I don't do it, that's what's going to happen. And it will be one more moment with him that I'll never get back. So, I am almost 25 minutes, so I've almost hit my time limit on this. I'm going to jump off here and finish getting this done. I gotta find a wrench that I couldn't find yesterday. Something I gotta do on my folks' Jeep. I'm gonna go find that wrench and work on getting mine cleaned up and tuned up. I'll try to do another video tomorrow. Tomorrow hopefully won't be as crazy as last weekend, and then it'll be the weekend. But I might post a Joey first ride video this weekend. I don't know. We'll see how comfortable he is with it. Maybe the idea that we could post it on YouTube will give him extra confidence, because he loves that. You know, he's giddy every time y'all make comments about him. So that could help. My GoFundMe link will be in the description if y'all want to help out. If not, I understand. Hope you all have a good day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.